Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 10 of Winning Time, the only business podcast that matters. I'm Jeremy Boudinot, operating out of Dallas, Texas. That's Brian Troutschuld out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. BT, how are you?
I can't believe it. I can't believe we're 10 in. I'm psyched. It's been fun. It's been a fun week with all the controversy that you kicked off last week with red flags and SaaS. Man, it's great. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to be here. The DMs and the comments were active last week with the red flags and SaaS, which I knew they would be. We covered, for those who didn't watch it, we covered the 12 red flags I see in SaaS, went deep on them. It called people out in my LinkedIn
You made some
post.
enemies. Made some enemies.
I had people, I will say this. I had an MBA who I respect agree with me that the MBA, having an MBA degree is essentially worthless if you don't do the networking and work around it that's attached to it. So that felt good.
A famous philosopher once said, if you don't have haters, you don't have lovers. Jeremy Boudinot has haters.
Wait. Who's that famous philosopher? I'm assuming it's a rapper.
I don't remember who said that.
If you don't have haters, you don't have lovers. Put that on my tombstone. That's incredible. Well, we're going. Last week was all about the haters, but this week's all about the lovers, PT, because we talked red flags. We had a very negative talk last week. This week we're going green flags, There's lots of good stuff out there, lots of good signals in the world you can find in startups and SaaS companies. So that's what we're going into this week.
Brought to you by Hinge. Shout out to our friends at Hinge who are bringing us the green flag episode.
I think I technically need to go with Bumble as a sponsor because I did meet my fiance via Bumble. Sorry, Hinge. Didn't have a lot of luck with you.
Are they owned by the same company? It may be all the same thing.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's just a
it's
monopoly.
All like, it's like a monopoly on dating apps.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to look in the background, but actually I am. I think explain the green flags one more time while we do this.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of a monopoly where they own Bumble, Hinge, Farmers Only, the whole different gamut.
Okay. But Hinge is owned by Match Group. Bumble is an independent, publicly traded company.
Good for them.
Shout out to Bumble. Bumble's just, juicing that stock price by juicing up the relationships.
They are. It's funny. I see Bumble. This is a diversion, but I see Bumble billboards all over Dallas with like happy couples on them. And I've seriously thought about emailing their marketing team and be like, I need to be on here. I need to be on one of these billboards with my fiance. How do I do this? So I'm ready to be a free spokesperson for you guys. Just put me up.
Use me to inspire future customers.
Exactly. So Bumble, if you're listening to this, if you're on the Bumble marketing team, I'm here. I'm available.
Yeah. Also look out for these upcoming green flags.
That's right.
In SaaS.
That's right. So green flags and SaaS, back to the topic. So I picked these, BT, based on a few things. This is all based on personal experience. My red flags are all based on firsthand. I've dealt with this. I've seen it up close, or I know people. Like I've suffered as a result of overlooking these. I was trauma dumping as a result of overlooking these red flags. The green flags are the opposite. These are where I've had great experiences with people at companies who have these traits, and it's pretty much across the board. You can count on it. You can rely on it. Now, we did 12 red flags last week. That was a lot. We're only going to do 7 green flags this week because I think it's easier to spot red flags than green flags. So it's kind of like dating.
Good point. Fair point. Yeah.
It's like dating. It's like there's ways to spot a red flag than green flags. So, but we got 7 really good ones here. They kind of like span set marketing, founders, engineers, the whole gamut. So I'm ready to dive in if you are, man.
I'm ready. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hear your green flags, and okay. I either plan on vehemently agreeing or vehemently disagreeing. I'm not sure. I didn't want to like overly study what you had.
Okay, I like that. We're going off the rip here. So
feels good.
Let's do it. All right. So green flag number 1, this is a well-known green flag. I think this obviously transcends SaaS. It basically applies to sales very broadly. And I think it applies to beyond sales, really to anything. It's former athletes. Green flag number 1, if somebody is a former athlete in high school and college, like the more competitive they were, the more they succeeded, the better. Tends to be a huge green flag, BT, for a few reasons. Number 1, you have to have extreme discipline. to succeed at the highest level as an athlete, you have to be super competitive, which is a huge, need in SaaS. Have that competitive edge about you in all that you do. That is a hallmark of athletes. Number 3, you're used to working on a team, unless you were like, I don't know, a tennis player or something like that. But having that team emphasis and understanding what it means to be a teammate and collaborate with people and all that good stuff. So also very important. Number 4, knowing how to overcome losses, bounce back from failure. I think every athlete faces that inevitably in their career. I think those are all like the pretty much like key things that describe athletes. And all the athletes I've worked with have all been great. And I've worked with the ones who are sales reps. I've worked with the ones who are sales leaders, customer success leaders. They are just great people, usually across the board, and very fun to work with. And they get shit done, for lack of a better word.
That's a good first one. Are you ready for 2 responses?
Yes.
Response 1. And I tend to agree, but I think there's a little bit of like, there's a stereotype, a classic stereotype in SaaS, at least in B2B sales from when we have come up, which was like, I just want to hire athletes, competitive,
Yes.
self-motivated, whatever. And I think all those things are true. I think actually an underrated part of the folks who were whatever, high school, collegiate athletes is they are very used to, or at least they have been conditioned to receive constant coaching and criticism over their, career. And I think about like, kids playing baseball or basketball, like they're just constantly being told, do this little thing better, do this little thing better, try this thing, focus on that thing. And if you've been in a B2B sales floor or similar, that's what the managers are doing. That's what the software is doing. It's nudging you, it's poking you, it's telling you to try this thing. The manager's like listening over your shoulder. And I think that is a required skill set of like, can you receive and be, open to constant feedback and constant criticism, frankly.
Yeah.
So that's part 1. Part 2, we're going to go to a conspiracy corner.
Okay.
A 30-year psyop in America, which was to dominate the world of startups, corporate sales. We're the epicenter of go-to-market. And it is because in the 90s, we installed a youth sports system, the youth sports industrial complex, to funnel all children into soccer and t-ball and little league baseball and whatever, so that we could just create a breeding ground of competitive, coachable, hardworking, dynamic future corporate citizens.
That was the real force. That was the driving force behind youth sports taking off the 90s. I had no idea.
It was not about parents being like, oh, little Timmy can make it to the NFL. It's like, this guy's going to be able to sling some subscriptions in 2014.
Like the World Economic Forum was meeting back in 1994 and like being like, we need more youth sports programs in America so they can take off and be a juggernaut.
American dynamism started at a Davos meeting over how to bring AYSO soccer nationwide.
George H.W. Bush, a collegiate baseball player himself, was part of it in 92 and was just like, yep. We need
See,
this.
there you go. It starts to check it out. Now the dominoes are starting to slide into place.
It makes sense. It makes sense, man. No, I'm here for the conspiracy theory. I love your point about coachability. That's actually the number one. I think you're right. That's the number one thing that is the most attractive trait of these former athletes.
I think it's real, at least like making it over that initial career hump as you get into like, not necessarily excelling, but like, can you make it past the initial barrier to entry in sales or marketing or customer service or anything?
It's the easiest way to screen for coachability. It's like you were an athlete, like you were on your high school football team or something like that, or you played volleyball in college or something. I don't know. Like, okay, you obviously have been coached very hard and you're used to it and you responded to it because you're good, right?
Right.
So
makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. I like it. That's a good green flag.
Good green flag, number 1, former athletes. Okay, so green flag number 2, BT. This is the inversion of my MBA, call out, I guess, with the red flags. I like people with non-traditional backgrounds. And I'm a little bit biased because I'm a non-traditional background marketer, but I'm speaking to like people who dropped out of college or didn't go to college or they took some weird route into their profession, or they did some weird stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of examples of this. Mark Cosaglow was selling textbooks for 20 years before he got into SaaS, and he became an electric VP of sales at Outreach.
In
My
addition to
old
that, we've hired multiple teachers who are all phenomenal, and we're looking for like a second change of career, and I mean, literally 100% hit rate on those folks.
Yeah, and I think there's like a hunger with these people who come from non-traditional backgrounds where they're excited, like it's like they've been doing the wrong thing for years, or like somebody that didn't really get their juices going, and then they discover SaaS and whatever they're doing inside of an organization. Like, this was what I was meant to be doing, this whole time. And you end up with this like really powerful, prolonged burst of motivation. You're inspired. You're thinking outside the box. You're very like just a self-starter, self-learner. You're like excited to learn everything there is to learn. It's a good thing.
I think that's a big part of it too. And not to knock, the red flag MBA folks, but I think there's also an element of like, if you're having to do the work or put in the effort or find that fit as a second career, non-traditional path, whereas maybe an MBA person, we could stereotype and say they had like this long path. They're like, I'm going to go do this, get an MBA, jump in here, and they're going to run this kind of linear path. I think having to like bounce into that, you're like overcoming hardship, you're learning new skills, you're doing these things that are, if you accomplish them, are probably pretty good indicators that you can get shit done. You can learn new things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people too, I think the challenge for people with MBAs is that you want to default to the fact you have an MBA. I just like psychologically, it's like I spent all this money, I have this advanced degree. It probably, I think, hinders the ability to enter a job with like the humility and the curiosity that's frankly needed to like really dig your teeth into what you're learning and get coached up and like ask questions, understand things, and like, just learn stuff. So I think non-traditional people tend to actually overperform a lot of times versus what, you would expect. So this is a big green flag for me.
I like and subscribe to that one. I also think that's a good encouragement to folks who don't feel like they're in the right spot in the organization or in their career, being willing to make a big change. I've seen so many people now, in yourself included, who've decided like, I don't want to actually do X, or I don't like this thing that I'm doing. And even if it's in the same company, but it's going from marketing to engineering or sales to something different, countless examples where people don't have to be locked into this like.
100%. Follow what you're naturally good at and what you enjoy doing. That's the end of the day is what's going to make you successful. So, all right, PT, number 3 is a fun one. And it's a pretty lighthearted one, but my number 3 green flag, and this is based on just the best engineers I've worked with. I noticed they all use the word trivial. If an engineer is constantly referring to something as trivial, there's the 3 best engineers I've worked with all use that verbiage a lot. I love it. It just makes me trust them.
Is there some type of content series or like is there something that all these people are also into where that word is utilized? Like, I'm curious, like, what's the foundation, or is it just that they're so excellent and good at, delivery, and like, there's like, oh yeah, that thing that you're saying you want, that's trivial to execute, trivial to do.
All I know is that if an engineer describes something as trivial, I'm bought into them completely. But I have no idea if this is like a community that they're all part of, secretly a secret cabal of elite engineers where like that word's used every 10th word.
I like that.
But the second part of this, which is a bit more real, is if you have super active GitHubs, like if you're shipping stuff constantly, that's like, the scoreboard of an engineer, really actually being someone who puts stuff out there and all that good stuff. So
I like it. I no notes. I'm going to, it's going to be like a hot button word it's like a safe word now when I speak to someone, a project in engineering. If I hear trivial, I'm going to,
it's a safe word.
Like lead back into my head.
Wait for Wes Kendall to say it. He's like the first one I ever heard say it, and I can't unhear it now.
That's amazing.
Yeah. My number 4 one, which is a little bit more meat to the bone, even-keel founders and leadership at a company. And I'm getting even keels. I'm saying this, but I've worked with some really good founders who in like leadership who are just the most all the way through. And I remember this when I was like interviewing with them and stuff like that. And they just were very almost just too chill. You know, I mean, they seem very relaxed and even keeled. Like Luke Brickman is one, Yaniv Meschetti is another one where they're just like, you're like, man, these guys are like almost, they're so zen and they're not super, what's the word I'm looking for? Expressive. But in a way, that working with them, my experience with that was they're like just always, they don't get too up or too down no matter what. And therefore, they're not reactionary, reactive to stuff. They're typically they stay the course. They don't get bogged down by minutia. They end up like pretty just easy to work for because they're not freaking out and like having meltdowns all the time. Conversely, the only client I've ever fired was the opposite of this and was just a hair on fire. Like every meeting I had with this guy was just like the world was ending or was going great. I was like, dude, you might be bipolar.
This might be a medical symptom.
This might be like feel bad for me sitting there just having a meltdown, like where he like can't even control his thoughts. He's like, God damn it, why like he's the CEO and founder of the startup. So anyways, that's the real, but I think it's a very good green flag seeing super even keel people. And it's kind of weird because you would think you want guys who are like these super charismatic, high energy type people, but I think the best ones I've worked for were actually more chill, if that makes sense.
I think there's probably a few things in there. First of all, I was really worried about which category you were going to put ambitious founders into. So I appreciate you not putting this into any category there.
You guys are even keel. Like you're even keel. I didn't see a lot of.
You don't have to say that. You don't have to say that.
I'm keeping it real. You're not you're on the spectrum. You're like right here. You're not all the way over, but you're in a healthy place.
Yeah, I think what's funny is, there's probably some, I don't know, maybe like oversimplification because, any media, whether it's like, we've done like little bits on business movies and like movies that we have great depictions of founders or specific like, business motifs. And those are all really drama filled and they're really like, powder keg situations. Someone's pounding the table or there's whatever. And, I haven't been in many of those that have ended in like a positive outcome, I guess. I can't think of any where there was some pounding the table situation and the outcome was like, oh my God, look at this incredible epiphany we had because someone yelled at someone else. Like that's never happened.
Right.
I'm sure there's counterexamples other places. And I've heard about stories in other companies where, founders throwing things at like throwing, dry erase markers at people or whatever. I'm like,
Steve Jobs.
Yes, probably just doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the myth making around, it's a great point, man. So I don't want to interrupt, but like the Hollywood and the myth making around Steve Jobs, I think convinced a ton of people that like, you had to be this charismatic, hard-charging, intense ball of energy all the time. And that's what all the greats were like. And it's really, in my personal experience, not been the case.
Well, and if you watch, and I'm sure this is different, and I'm sure there's lots of, I've listened to one of his books, but if you like watch his there's a bunch of great stuff on YouTube of Steve like talking to classes at Stanford and talking to like groups of business students and stuff in totally different setting than like some, high stakes meeting. But the dude is like so chill and so like, a really profound philosophical speaker, not like a really, I don't know, dogmatic, high energy presenter. And I'm sure there's different situations, but yeah, I think you're generally right. I think there's once again, I think this is probably more true than not green flag. I think that there's like a correlation and not causation here. And what I think the correlation is the people who who ride smooth versus like, the highs and up and downs. It's just all a long game. Like it's all such a longer game. And you said this before, like the people who are focused further out and like whatever happened today or this week is just like a minor bump on the bigger long-term vision. Those people I think just tend to stick with it. They can run the marathon or whatever metaphor you want to say, versus like the people who burn out like like
a Roman candle.
Yeah, a Roman candle in, a short period of time, like some folks certainly do.
Yeah. Well said, man. So yeah, all right. So we're both in agreement. Green flag, even-keel founders, and leadership. Love it. All right, number 5. I love this green flag. I know you're going to agree with me on this. I think you will. Propensity for rule breaking. Love this one. And this is rules can be. This is like a pretty broad definition.
Talking about jail rules. Which rules are we talking about?
This is not like what I was talking about with the 30 under 30, fraud rule breaking. This is like more ethical rule breaking, if you will, where you're just finding ways to do things that are outside of the norms or the best practices or the, typical paradigms of business. So like, the example would be like we were happy to hack Reddit my first month I was at Tesla, which is like rule breaking. Like we weren't like, and this is very non-traditional marketing stuff we were doing. But that was like the very first month there. Huge success, set the tone for like how Luke and I worked together at Tesla the rest of the time I was there. You guys had ambition when I joined. I mean, we didn't do anything. We almost had no like prototypical SaaS marketing going on. It was like very much weird content initiatives, weird viral stunts, guerrilla style, like, and it worked is the thing because no one else was doing it. And like, we just didn't give a fuck what the typical SaaS playbook was. And we were just going to do what we were good at and what we thought would move the needle. And eventually it did. So I've always like in the successful, like Nextiva, this was the case, very successful rule breaking company where it was like, we would find ways to game whatever systems we could to win. That was how you did it. It's just the nature of business, man. It's the law of the jungle. So
I have 2 more responses, and I think you're right. And maybe the preface is I actually think rule breaking, but with the boundary that I actually think the best founders are like extremely ethical. And I say that because it just takes a ton of trust to like stick with company leader or founders or whatever for a long time. And I think, like friendship, relationship, whatever, like once the trust is broken because of some like unethical thing, it's like impossible to get back basically. Right. So like good people do stay with or will gravitate towards highly ethical leaders. I highly believe that. But I think you're totally right, which is that like there's very little value. There's almost no alpha in doing like what everyone else is doing that's safe. And so whether that's like, the traditional channels, whatever your industry is, like if you're only willing to play the safe game, well, that's like where 80% of the other people are playing and they're all trying to do the same thing. And so like you need people who are willing to break the paradigm or to do things that will fail or do things that are, atypical because there's alpha in whatever those outside the like, mainstream. So that I think is maybe one of the big things that contributes to what you're describing of like, different tactics, guerrilla style marketing, for example. And then the other one, and I don't know if this is like pure fit for this green flag, but I think people who are willing to or like able to put themselves in the mindset that like maybe everyone else is wrong. Like maybe the rest of the people are playing by a set of rules that are dumb or they're, approaching the way that everyone else has done business, which is like, going to be disrupted or changed or is not smart. And, that ends up that can like run real close to the line, the line of rules or the line of like standards in the industry or whatever. Thinking of like, Zenefits. Zenefits is like, skating real close to the sun of like breaking all these regulations. And maybe, in some cases did. But it's because they're like, okay, the status quo of how this industry works is stupid and there's better ways of doing this. And they, really ran at it.
Yeah. One of my favorite founders, not SaaS, but he had a great podcast interview this week was Uber, another example of
Yeah.
this. Travis Kalanick, you know, man,
Yeah. That's a great example.
I mean, broke the rules for sure. I mean, you know, but was like, the way we're doing this is dumb. Like, why is
Yeah.
why can't
There's a
any car?
medallion that costs
It's yeah,
$500,000 to drive this cab, and like,
yeah,
and that like limits all the innovation in the industry. Like, yeah, pushing
yeah.
it,
So
and it worked.
it did. So yeah, I think it's a fine line, and it's a very hard one, you know, to play a case by case basis. And like, you have to, you know, have the ethics, like you said, you know, you don't want to go total black hat in
Yeah,
anything, because that will come back to bite you. Business karma is a very real thing, as
I
I
agree with
say.
that.
But at the same time, like, knowing, well, here's a line that's actually worth crossing, or here's a paradigm that's not worth paying attention to, and here's a risk that's worth taking. Like, when people are looking for that stuff all the time and like down to do it, I feel like those are great, like, facets of a personality to have in leadership in SaaS. So
I agree,
yeah,
especially in the early stage. Actually, I think in late stage, I think the company's propensity to play outside the line as you get bigger and bigger, and, you know, more and more rigor, is why all these companies ultimately get disrupted. Like, they're
yeah,
afraid to make mistakes. They're afraid to, you know, I don't know, be embarrassed or whatever. Like,
yeah.
that's what kills you.
100%. That's exactly right, man. All right. So number 6, green flag. This is a fun one. We're deviating a little bit here. Green flag, physically fit. if you're if you're if you're in great shape, I don't know. I think there's
You trust them more.
I
Trust them more.
There's a real, all I'm saying, BT, is that there's a real biological response that we have that's innate as people, where when we see someone who is in good shape working with us, there is a better positive response that our brains have. So yes, I'm saying that it physically fits a good green flag in SaaS. If you're trying to sell something,
let's cut to the ad read real quick. Do you want to meet physical fit people in your local area? Check out this great app. It's called Hinge. No, I think this is a wild one. This is a wild one that is dangerous. Thin ice. But okay, I think here's what I'll give you that I think is true, because there are Venn diagrams of people, and I think there's a Venn diagram of people who are like our people who are former athletes or whatever. They are, you know, exceedingly disciplined. They are, you know, scientifically, they're going to have a lot of energy, most likely.
yes,
There's all these things that probably contribute to, you know, positive output and, like, you know, really highly effective people. That's not to say you have to be physically fit to be, you know, an effective person in the team or like a great worker. But I do think it's one I'll give like a soft yellow. I could think of multiple examples of physically fit people who sucked. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not fully subscribed to it.
okay, all right, that's fair. Hey, all right, your caveats are fair. You don't have to be physically fit to be an elite, you know, performer. You can be a total badass, and like, I mean, there's definitely examples. SaaS founders who are notoriously overweight or whatever, who are legends in the game.
For sure.
Yeah. So
I think you're more likely to be, I do think if you're like purely looking at a draft board of like people around a sales floor, and you're like, who's going to be great, if it was one of the things that you were like blind picking people based off of, I think that you would probably end up being better off by like using that as a lever. But I think you'll miss on some people who are like fantastic who are not physically fit.
I agree. And I have a great story to back this up too, which is the time I went with my brother to his President's Club. His wife couldn't go with him, so I got to go with him to Scottsdale.
It's an insane thing that they let the two Boudinais go to his President's Club together.
Multiple Boudinais here. So we go in, we're at the pool, and the whole pool is just all Paycom top sales reps. And I'm like, I felt like I walked into the movie Barbie or something like that. It was just all just Barbies and Kens everywhere. I was like 40 pounds heavier at this point. I was like embarrassed. I was like, I shouldn't even be here. I deserve
You're
to
like
be
sliding into the pool with the t-shirt on. You're like, hey, what's up?
I was this close to doing that. I was like, I don't have the six pack that I need to be among these guys, but it was like outrageously like hilarious how just uniformly in shape these people were. I do think like there's a lot of good indicators of being in good shape. You're disciplined. You're able to do hard things. Obviously, you go to the gym and, you run a marathon or something like that. So, but to your point, that's not a guarantee. There's people who are in great shape who should spend less time at the gym and more time working, probably.
I've been in plenty of CrossFit classes with people who are just dumber than rocks. And so I know this goes both ways. And they look great. It doesn't matter. You know what's funny? And we would look, sponsors don't pull out because of this, but like it would be amazing to do some type of, do you remember Hot or Not?
Of course. Iconic. Yeah.
Like it would be fascinating to have like a anonymized like Hot or Not score based on the sales organization of companies because like my point there is I do wonder if Paycom, shout out to the Paycom people, that's a really competitive space. There's lots of alternatives. I wouldn't say it's commodity, but there's just a lot of incumbents, different options. And I do wonder if like you're in spaces like that, if there's like a net benefit to being attractive. Like I wonder.
Well, there is. There is.
It just kind of makes sense that there could be.
Because their entire sales org was field sales. They were going into people's offices. There was no
showing up unannounced, like knock on the window. Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Like they didn't cold call, they cold entered the office. And you can imagine if you were a very attractive guy or girl, it was a little bit easier to not get, you weren't getting thrown out as fast. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you and me 2 years after college, people are like, get the hell out of here. You're in the wrong place.
I would have been arrested.
The sandwich shop is 2 doors down. We're like, chill.
I would have been sitting there sad at like the nearby Subway, just like, damn it, not again. So we basically, I think this may be the weakest green flag, maybe a bit more of a yellow flag. We'll say
we're a little nervous to commit. There's plenty of caveats in this one. I don't think it's a bad one. There's an endless sea of caveats.
I'll agree. It's my weakest green flag of all of them so far. So we could commit to that. So number 7, last one here, BT, maybe the most important one, goes back to one of my favorite quotes in startups. I remember Ted Alling talking to me about this, like my first week at Ambition. Default to action, fast muscle twitch. If somebody is like default to action, fast muscle twitch, aka like I do things like when someone tells me to do something, I do it immediately. Or if I have an idea, I act on immediately. Or if, see an opportunity to do something, I have high agency, I'm going to take it. Like this is the most important thing and most important trait I think of any of them in SaaS.
This is the greenest flag. This is the like, you're on the first date, you ended up sitting across the table from this person, and you just delete the apps. You delete all the swiping apps immediately. You're like, I'm all in. We're in. What do I need to do? This is the thing. It's like, I think that the high agency thing is the new world order of the fast twitch. Like fast twitch was like the previous generation of this, but they're both cut from the same cloth. They're both really related. And I really like this one. I think that this can be applied in lots of different areas of your career, of how you interact with your teams, on how you present yourself to peers. Like, I really like this one.
Yeah. If someone responds, for example, if I send an email at 9 p.m. and someone responds at 10 p.m., that's insane. That's like great fast twitch.
I like how you pivoted this into just toxic work-life balance.
Yeah.
Somehow you pivoted into that.
I'm going to keep it real. This is, unfortunately, that's a part of this. I've got another story, which was a great example of this, was when Nextiva recruited me. They flew me out to Scottsdale. They, took me out to dinner. They're like, let's go play basketball. Let's go pick up basketball. I didn't have any tennis shoes. So they took me to the mall and bought me a pair of Russell Westbrooks, paid for the shoes. I was like,
Get in the car.
And then we went and played, and I got smoked, but it was a great green flag.
I'll give you a also maybe toxic, but I used to wake up and I don't really know. I guess it was because there were so few people at Ambition, like a lot of variety of different emails, support stuff, inbound would come to me. and I would like naturally just wake back up at 3 a.m. and I would just do email from like 3 a.m. to like 4 and then go back to sleep. Yep. And so there were all these people who were like getting email replies from me at like 3 a.m. or whatever. And they're like, this guy's fucking insane.
He's a
and
psycho.
Like on one hand, I really was that person. I was doing insane stuff. And then I flipped it once I got smarter and a little bit more normal. And I would just schedule, like if I knew someone wasn't going to like reply, I would just in Gmail, I'd be like scheduled to send this at like 6:02. Like
you're this dude, you're the second guy who's a high performing founder I know who does that. That's like a great move, and it works. It's crazy.
Especially in like active conversations. Like I wouldn't say people need to do this for like an outbound sales strategy. I don't think that hurts to be at the top of the inbox in the morning, but like if there's a back and forth and you're not going to get a reply back from the person, it's like not even worth sending the 10 p.m. or whatever, 12 p.m. email, 12 a.m. email. It's like send it to them at like 6:13 because they're like probably Pelotoning at 6:13 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to read on their Peloton, they're going to respond. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not bogged down with shit yet.
Yeah.
The great one, default to action, fast muscle twitch. Shouts out Ted Alling, the Godfather, who I think, taught us.
He's one of a kind. One of a kind.
All right, BT, well, I think we agree. 7 green flags here, maybe 6 green flags and 1 yellow flag.
Yeah, I felt briefly at risk there. I felt at risk from, but I feel like we navigated it with some fairness.
You did. We
put enough little caveats in there. But look, I think these are great, and I think these are fun because I think that these are things, maybe with the exception of being like a high school athlete or whatever, but like people can control a lot of these things. Trivial, yes. Okay, maybe you're not going to add that to your lexicon tomorrow, but a lot of it's just like how you interact with your coworkers, how you present yourself, how you react to, an assignment or a challenge. And yeah, that's like, effectively anyone could adopt those things. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the first 2, maybe it's harder, but being even keel, having propensity for rule breaking or risk taking, things like that, getting in shape or having a fast default to action. Like these are all things you can do on your own and train yourself to really do. And like some companies set their culture up around stuff like this, and they build that. And they train their employees to like, this is the way to do business. And it's a great way to be.
I will give you one more. And I'm thinking about the fit one. Cause I've been in some companies, the Barbie and Ken thing is a funny like sales culture thing, which I hope a lot of people can have experienced versions of that. But I also like companies where you go in and it feels like a cult. Like yes. you feel like you're in like a little bit of a weird place because you're like everyone else is in on this cult shit and I don't exactly know what's going on, but like they're all in on it. And I think there's like a thing. The green flag is like, are you all in? Have you like? Yeah. It's not like are you like unaware and like tuned out to the rest of the world, but are you like, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing the thing. We're working hard enough to make it work. We're thinking ahead. We're like seeing around the corners. I believe in what we're doing.
Yes.
Those people are like intoxicating to partner with or to work with or to whatever. Because they're not like 1 foot half out or they're not like, yeah, but like, the mission. They're like, no, we're fucking doing this thing. Like we're doing it. So yeah, when you can be that way or you find a place where you feel that way, you should lean all the way in.
That's a great one. Intoxicating is a good word for it because I know exactly what you mean. Like when you're in those, you know it when you experience it.
All types of companies too, not just big SaaS companies. I mean, I've been in like small regional companies where, it's like everyone's just all in. You're like, oh, this is sick. Yeah,
it's fun. It's like it feels deeper than work, what I mean? So that's what you want, right? So, and it rubs off on people and people, the right type of person will adopt that same mentality and have a lot of fun with it and love working there and truly give their best and grow and develop, in their careers. So great point, man. That's a good one. That's our soft number 8 is cult sensibilities. Yeah.
Does this? Some may call it a red flag. We, on the other hand,
it's a green flag. Yeah, huge green flag. So good stuff, man. we're way over time, but BT, like great pod here, man. Like green flags and SaaS. Look for these. Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
I think these are fun. I loved it, man. These are a great format to play with.
I'm excited to see the reactions to these. So check it out. Check out the episode. Comment if you have questions. If you want to email us questions, ask questions, want us to talk about something, let us know. We're here every week. So yeah, thanks for watching Winning Time, brought to you by Hinge.
Brought to you by our friends at Hinge. Winning Time, episode 10. We're out.
We're out. See you guys.